Monday edition, Blue Sky Live here with you today. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio. We'll be back with you guys. SEC Media Day last week. Had a lot of coverage, a lot of podcasts, courtesy of Mr. McCready across the table from me right now. We'll wrap up that a little bit. We'll hit some other topics as well across the sports world, and then there's stuff going on not in the sports world as well. So we'll get to that on today's podcast. Also here with you this morning, it's, as we talked about, it's kind of a lull now. You get SEC Media Days, and you have 10, 15 days prior to camp beginning, and then in earnest for the 2024 football season that kicks off at the end of August between the Rebels and the Furman Paladins. I think it's 38 days away.
You think I need to buy
40 days away? I don't know.
Just buy the ring light, or do I need to buy a whole new stand?
If we can get the light off, you just need the light, but I don't know. It's a good question.
I'll just buy the whole thing.
We'll figure it out in a minute. So I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Either way, I don't know. I'd have to look. All that stuff coming up on today's show. Appreciate everybody already in the stream this morning. RebelGrove.com. Neal's 10 weekend thoughts up from last night, yesterday afternoon. Those also have some written version of wrapping up SEC Media Days. But again, we'll talk about it a little bit here on today's show. A show brought to you every day by Blue Sky locations throughout Mississippi. That's up and down I-55. That's throughout North Mississippi as well. Sweet Daddy's locations are in a lot of those places. You know, with that, you get the ribs, you get the pulled pork, you get the lunch specials, you get sides, desserts, and much more. You can even call them ahead. They'll wrap them up, have them ready to go for you, make dinner easy tonight or any night that you would like there with the Blue Sky locations around Mississippi. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote. And the rest is completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done. What's something wrong?
They said we sound like chipmunks.
Oh. Let me see.
Oh, wow.
What?
You don't hear that?
No, I don't hear anything.
I mean, I'll edit this out of the actual podcast. Check, 1, 2, 3. Check, 1, 2, 3.
So it's some sort of a thing that has been pushed here.
Oh, it's on your board.
That's my guess. Try to figure it out.
Okay.
There's a light that's lit up that's normally not lit up, so I'm figuring out how to get it unlit.
Yeah, give it a second, guys. Check, 1, 2, 3. Check. Nope. That is kind of funny.
This is also, yeah, we fixed it. We're good. That's what you get for not putting headphones on at the beginning of the show. It's a little bit on me there. I don't know why it didn't pop in yours, though.
No, I have mine on, and mine sounds completely normal, so I had no idea.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. What I will probably do then at the end is just re-record an opening, and we'll do it that way. But anyway.
Is that better? Is it better now?
It was when I had them on a second ago.
Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't sound any different.
No, you're good. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
It's gone. Okay.
Just restart.
Okay.
Yeah. You want me to restart the audio file?
No. I'll cut it. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna take 5 seconds here for a little gap in between, and we'll just start over. As funny as that is, I probably will keep the file though. I can use that for something.
No, it wasn't Siskey. I haven't been up here in 9 days. So my guess is that I have no idea. My guess is that somehow it just connected.
Welcome in to this Monday edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast, Blue Sky Live, here with you today. Good to be back with you after SEC Media Days last week. McCready with a lot of content, a lot of podcasts and different things on MPW Digital. We'll recap some of that stuff, put a final bow on SEC Media Days, some other sports topics, and a little bit going on around the world as well here on this Monday morning. Appreciate everybody in the stream. Had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I appreciate you guys giving us a heads up on that as well. We could have just carried on with a full show of sounding like we were sucking helium this morning. So anyway, either way, glad to be back in the studio and glad to talk about Blue Sky locations throughout Mississippi, up and down I-55, throughout North Mississippi as well. You know about the sweet daddies that are in a lot of those places. They've got the ribs, the pulled pork, the dessert, side items, and much more, including the lunch specials here in Oxford. You can get those lunch specials for $5.69, two sides, bread, any size fountain drink as well. And let them take care of dinner tonight. Ribs, pulled pork, they'll wrap it up, ready to go for you with the Oxford Exxon and all Blue Sky locations. Again, it comes to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today, 662-257-1900. Guest join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, their pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized orthopedic team in North Mississippi providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit campbellclinicoxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111.
So, again, we've got, I guess, 10, 12, 15 days prior to camp opening for the Ole Miss Rebels. Something like that. August.
9 days.
Is it just 9 days?
Yeah, I think it's next Wednesday.
Do we have a schedule?
No.
Okay.
I just heard that.
That it's next Wednesday?
I've heard they report next Tuesday or Wednesday and then practice the next day. So it's 9 to 10 days.
Okay. You were telling me before.
I mean, the deal is like you get.
Go ahead.
You can pretty much figure it out. It's not hard. Ole Miss opens on August 31st.
That's correct.
So you get like 28 practices. You can
do the math.
You can't practice 40 times. You can practice 28 times. And a lot of coaches don't even use all 28. And that includes like the walk through.
Because you have an acclimation period. You can't put on full pads for so many days.
You have 2 days that you have to go in only helmets.
Yes.
Obviously shorts and shirts, but no
pads.
pads. And then you have 2 days where you can go shoulder pads.
Yeah. Shells. Yes.
And then so there's 4 days before you can put full pads on.
Which is essentially full pads because these days leg pads are pretty optional anyway.
Right. And what that basically means is you can't, and there's a certain number of days that you can tackle to the ground.
Yes.
That's why you see a lot of the tackling drills that they do are on dummies.
And we do it.
If you tackle bodies to the ground, that counts as one of your days.
And we do it every single fall of how much should you tackle, how much shouldn't you tackle, how do you get in game shape for tackling, how do you risk injury, blah, 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 blah. Lane typically likes doing less of all of it and making it more mental than anything else, other than conditioning for the most part from that standpoint. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll hit tons of camp stuff. I mean, when that hits, we're full go and we'll get you ready for the 2024 season. When you look though, Neal, I guess this thing's over. We're seeing a lot of comments about media days and different things in the stream.
Yeah.
You were telling me right before we got started, you thought Dallas went well. You thought from a venue, from logistics. It's the first time we had an extra day. I know you left, obviously, before it was all over, but you were there for the majority of it for sure. Just in general, for the media then giving information to the fan, what did you sort of make of the week?
I enjoyed it. I thought I was able to get a lot of work done in a short period of time. The SEC is terrific with the events like that. I mean, just fantastic. They're incredibly friendly to media. Chuck Dunlap and all of the people there are remarkably good to media. I loved the setup in that hotel in Dallas. Print was not far from Radio Row. I mean, if I have a criticism, and it's not really a criticism because it's an ESPN thing, I think ESPN spends too much of its focus on, or SEC network spends too much of its focus on the main room. And I think fans think, oh, those are a lot of weird questions. And they don't really, this isn't a criticism of fans. They just don't really understand the dynamics of it. There's a breakout room that all of the coaches, when they first get there, they go meet with local media in the breakout room. So literally, like Lane, for example, since 99% of the people listening to this are Ole Miss fans, they want to know what Kiffin's deal was. I mean, in terms of his schedule, he got there. he had not been in Dallas half an hour when he met with us. And then half an hour after meeting with us, he's in the main room. So while he's talking to the main audience, I'm transcribing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing what Lane told us because I know that the SEC is going to provide a pretty damned accurate transcription of what Lane says in the main room. So the reason that you don't hear local beat writers asking local type questions to Lane in the big room is because we just did.
And it's not for that.
It's not for that.
Yeah.
So like there was a criticism of
that is a good point. Yeah.
There was a criticism of like, why did he get 2 questions about Chris Paul from Arkansas writers? Well, because Arkansas didn't go until Thursday. So the local Arkansas writers that were there on Monday are like, well, how can I regionalize an Arkansas, a story about Ole Miss?
Well, Chris Paul.
And so, yeah. And I mean, I did some of that. Like, like when I talked to Ole Buchanan, hey, what can Ole Miss fans expect from Walter Nolan? What happened with Walter Nolan? I think that stuff's interesting.
Yeah.
So, there was a criticism of that. And I was like, no, it's legit. I mean, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I mean, I think if you just could only hear one thing, you'd be better off getting coaches in the TV room because there aren't as many of them. The questions are a little more topical and maybe the coaches are a little more relaxed because there's not a bunch of beat writers that they're used to being kind of confrontational with right there.
Yeah, I think what they call it, TV online or internet room or something. Isn't that the title of that second area they go to? Because yes, once they're depending on their schedule, once they're in the main room, they go to this other breakout room as well,
right,
and do that. So there are 3 different sections between local media, big room, and then secondary room. Yeah, they put it on the, and again, I guess I get why they do it, but they put the coverage on the worst room of the 3 if you're literally trying to get football answers at that point.
Well, yeah, if you're trying to get specific football answers, I mean, although there was some of it. I mean, I don't hang out in that room a lot because, again, I'm going to get a transcription from the SEC. I was trying to kind of talk to people and, I stayed 3 of the 4 days. I left late on Wednesday. I didn't get back here until a little after 9 p.m. on Wednesday night. I wasn't obviously there on Thursday, thank goodness, because a lot of people that tried to get out on Friday morning couldn't because of the computer thing that happened with Microsoft. Yeah. So I don't know, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was more professional. I like when they put it a ways away because, to be honest, it keeps some of the bloggy riffraff out.
Mm-hmm.
And the bloggy riffraff are the people that ask the real fanboy questions. So I actually thought it was pretty professional as a whole.
It felt more corporate in a good way.
Yeah.
I don't mean that negatively, which is usually what you do. I felt like it was more corporate.
Like at the very beginning of before our little technical problems, I'll see if I can find it.
CC Simon.
Yeah, he says, thank you both for the coverage you both provide. Started all the pods last week, but listening to some of the fanboy coverage from other sites was hard. I appreciate that. I mean, I guess I'm glad I reread it because I read it differently the first time. Like I thought, like all the podcast interviews that I did with other people, I'm struggling to recall one where I thought it was fanboyish. I thought I got pretty objective answers from really everyone. Like I thought Ole Buchanan was terrific talking about Texas A&M. Matt, I'm more bullish on LSU than Matt Moscona. I thought John Neighbors, who got criticized a lot last year for being a homer on Arkansas, I thought he was very realistic about the Hogs. Like, for example, I mean, Jared Hamilton was – I thought he was good. I mean, he picked 9-3 for Mizzou. I think they're going to win 10 games. So
I mean, because of the schedule, Missouri's in kind of an Ole Miss situation where 9-3 is a disappointment because it means you lost games that were coin flips at worst.
Sure. And I mean, there's a lot of people that are really bullish on Georgia, but Jesus, have you looked at their roster?
That's what I heard.
I mean, talk to coaches. I mean, I did. I talked to some people that I know, and I mean, off the record, people are raving about Georgia. I mean, privately, Georgia assistant coaches are saying this is the best team Kirby's ever had. That doesn't mean that he'll win the national championship, but privately, this is the best team that they've ever had. I wrote this in 10 Thoughts. It's like, the media, two things, like the media voting. I'm all over the place a little bit this morning, but like there's some criticism of media voting. You need to understand that like there were, I don't know how many hundred media there. Only about 140 something people voted. I didn't vote. I meant to vote. I got busy and I didn't vote. And I know that happened to a lot of other people because I heard other people say, oh shit, I forgot to vote. I got busy. I didn't do it. I mean, we don't get 100%, 100% of the populace won't go vote on election day. People forget to vote. That does happen. And then there are people that don't want to vote. And then there are people that get silly with their vote. That happens too. But there's not as much of that. I mean, the two people that vote Vanderbilt number one are clearly trolling.
I think they should lose their vote.
I do too. But
I can say it, they should lose their vote and recognize it doesn't freaking matter at the same time.
But like I wrote about this with like Jackson Dart. Would I have put Jackson Dart on my All-SEC team? I would have. I would have either put him second or third team, probably third. I mean, I have no issue with Carson Beck being number one because if you talk to NFL people, there's a real chance Carson Beck goes 1-1 in the draft. Quinn Ewers is terrific. The NFL loves him. Frankly, he's ranked higher among NFL people right now than Dart. And I don't have would I rather have Dart than Milroe? I would. But I don't have some monumental problem with Milroe. He was very good at Alabama last year, and he took that team to the overtime in a national semifinal game. I don't have a big issue with that. I thought, I thought he had some real moments last year. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the league. That actually was one of the storylines. But I don't know, at the end of the day, and this is like the whole media day thing, at the end of the day, it's a lot of preseason stuff, and none of it really matters. They're going to play games.
It's the thing, and the Dart thing sort of plays into it that I took from the entire week was you start looking at all these teams that have some level of playoff aspirations that are legitimate. And I think you talked about it with, I know Richard and some other people, Matt, over the course of the week, is they can't all get in. No. And the schedule doesn't allow everybody to get in. And obviously this thing's not played on paper, and somebody who's supposed to go 9-3 might go 6-6 and all this different stuff. But at the same time, it sets up for this, especially covering Ole Miss, who, barring catastrophe, should be 6-0 before it kind of gets started with that LSU game on October 22nd, 12th, something like that. It's 12th or 22nd.
LSU's the 12th.
There you go, 12th. That you have so many teams and so many games that matter. I mean, I think there was a thread on the board a few days ago. I think Kentucky Rep started it of it's actually going to increase interest in college football games nationally because you're so concerned with this team losing and this team winning and putting the entire picture together. That I think that's what my main takeaway from media days was I sort of was letting the season sneak up on me. We do that in July because we have to try to get some energy back, and it's just sort of a preservation thing for media members and for us specifically because of podcasts and writing and everything. But in general, it's the one thing that kind of made me a little more excited for the season was look around going, suddenly that A&M Notre Dame game in week 1 is really freaking big, where if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're probably going, hey, Aggies, go get one right here, and I'll worry about you later.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yes. Knock out Notre Dame because that's going to be a problem. Because you start doing these math things and start putting this thing together, and I mean, you have 6-7 SEC teams that all either have the talent or the schedule that gives them a realistic chance to be in that conversation. And when that's the case, I mean, we're playing college football, and we're just putting a season together to try to be one of the top 11 teams in the country if you're one of these teams trying to make the playoffs, because the group of 5 is going to be 12. But it's also creating this almost reality TV narrative that almost like we're playing a game of Survivor in some point. And I think that's going to add an element that's going to be kind of interesting and pretty cool from a podcast standpoint as the year moves on.
Yeah, I thought a lot of those interviews were pretty interesting. I mean, you can make an argument for that was kind of the point. I think is what Olin was saying is, I mean, you can make an argument for Texas A&M having a very intriguing season if they beat Notre Dame. And if they don't, it gets pretty tough. But
yeah, it's probably over immediately.
But if they do, their schedule's pretty friendly. A&M lost a bunch of close games last year. What if they win those games? My point on Ole Miss repeatedly is, you heard my interviews. I did a bunch of other shows too with people where people asked me about Ole Miss, and I always pointed out that from a and luck's the wrong word. But from games that sort of were coin tossy, Ole Miss won them, all of them, last year.
Mm-hmm.
What if the law of averages come back to get you? And so, and I always get the question, and I'm not good at this question, and I always answer this question honestly by saying I'm bad at it. What's the fan feeling? I don't know. Beats me. But listening to you and to other people, there's this word that I guess I don't really get. It's this anxiousness. I'm like, this isn't meant as a criticism at all, but I wouldn't be anxious. I think I'd want to just go have fun with it. It's going to be what it is, right? I mean, this thing is going to give me an ulcer all year. It's not really supposed to be that way.
And I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, I saw the message board thread that, some people said anxious or whatnot. And I'm beginning to wonder if I'm getting it more from donors, people really involved with the collective, because a lot of the anxiety is frankly, hey, you need to win to be able to do this again next year. It's on a lot of this looking ahead thing in a way. As much as the Peach Bowl felt like a launching pad for Ole Miss into 2024, this feels like that proof of concept season that you have to have for 2025. So I think some of that I'm getting is from stakeholders or just fans that are very involved in the collective or very interested in that dynamic. And that's not necessarily the same thing as the casual to dedicated fan that's just going to enjoy these 12 to 15 games and go from there.
Well, I'll be really careful how I do this because it was off the record, but I talked to a pretty prominent person who just does not believe that this current model, counting on fans, this is not about Ole Miss specifically, by the way, counting on fans to pay for rosters is sustainable.
Well, sure, of course.
I mean, the analytics, the feedback that they've gotten does not support it.
Yeah, sure.
So I think people should take that off their plates. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the long-term model moving forward. I mean, I think they're going to I think they're going to some sort of a structured, almost salary sort of a thing where this is what it is, and then you're going to continue to have the under the table stuff, but I don't think that's controllable, and I think everyone's accepted that's not controllable. But
and the universities are planning for the rev share right now, which is going to mean 20-something million out of their own coffers.
Yeah.
Which is not the Grove Collective or whatever they're called all over the place.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong on this. I think as this thing progresses and people start hearing about it, here's how much these people make, they're probably not going to be super inclined to donate even more to those things.
Or you just got to get a big Chevy logo right in the middle of the field and pay for the whole thing, right?
Well, I do think those things. I do think those things are coming. I think if you listen to the commissioner, you definitely heard that.
Yeah, Sankey did not rule that out.
Of course not.
He did what we expected. He said, "Hey, you got to maximize all these things. We're for them. At the same time, we realize it's college. Don't be gaudy. Make it make sense inside the structure of what you're doing."
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see some of the smaller leagues go gaudy.
Oh well, yeah, because they're just trying to run.
And then if they don't get a superb amount of or an extreme amount of negative feedback on it, I think you'll see the bigger leagues steer into it.
Well, it's where I was talking. Maybe it was the show with Brian last week that we did as a fill-in, or Jeffrey. I don't remember which one because I did one with both. It was talking about Brett Yermark with the Big 12. Was he keeps talking about private equity over and over and over and over again, and that is one of two things when you do that. It's either his first misstep because he's been very true to brand, even though he's looking for maximization. So it's his first misstep thinking that he has any soul whatsoever in a private equity company, or their finances are way worse than we think, and it's his only option. It's one or the other. It's a huge misstep, or it's they just need the money, and frankly, it doesn't matter because it's the only method to survival at that point. Because once you go private equity, that has to be your last gasp.
That's a death sentence.
Yes, they don't care what you think in any way. No. It is profitability.
No, you sell your soul at that point completely, and they're going to strip things down to bare bones, and it's not going to look like anything what you're used to. And I think that's where people push back.
Mm-hmm.
Because so far, there hasn't been any noticeable bleeding.
No. Other than weird schedules and that kind of stuff, no bleeding. Yeah, no tangible bleeding yet.
And the commissioner day one, Sankey was, we need more college sports, not less college sports. I mean, that was a statement. I thought Sankey said a lot. And like I heard people come out of there going, he didn't say anything. I'm like, yeah, he did. He said a lot. It's where I sometimes go, not to make this political at all, but I'm like, you guys don't follow politics at all, do you? Because sometimes people say a lot by saying very little.
It's the funniest thing. You got Sankey who does a lot of political type stuff, and then we'll get to it later. Politics-wise, if you cover college football, you knew what was going on the last 2 weeks. You went, oh, this is all athletics type stuff right here.
Right.
With the Democrats and how that's played out. Like, in my head, I was laughing several times, and I went, oh, no, that's that I know this game.
Yeah.
We do this game.
His answers about expansion were very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of people going, that's it. See, we're at 16. I'm like, that's not what he said at all.
No.
It's not what he said. He took a very clear shot at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was transparent, and yet nobody really got it.
He's very good at saying things if you're listening.
Yes.
And understand the overall concept of the conversation.
If you're following along and you listen and you are level-headed and you're not emotional and you listen to it, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But he doesn't give that direct, clear soundbite that everybody aggregates.
Yeah.
So he's very careful in the middle there.
He said it.
Yeah.
We're not out recruiting.
Yeah.
Which is true. They didn't recruit Oklahoma and Texas.
No.
They didn't. Oklahoma and Texas made that call.
Yeah.
I can tell you emphatically, beyond a shadow of a doubt after leaving Dallas, that the one school outside of Notre Dame, the one school that absolutely would have an SEC offer if it asked for one is North Carolina.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
100%.
Notre Dame, UNC.
I can't even go 100% on Notre Dame because I didn't specifically kind of ask about that.
And while I think you're right, the regionality is something the SEC is still very concerned with.
Well, he said it.
Yeah.
He said that.
Culture and footprint, staying in our area.
He was very transparent on that.
Yeah.
In fact, to the point where, like, if you told me there was another team, I would go, are they thinking about Kansas? Because Kansas is contiguous to a couple of SEC schools.
We're starting to get out of the whatever.
But, Missouri,
mm-hmm.
Arkansas, both of those states touch Kansas.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't think Texas does, but it's not far.
Yeah.
But if you told me, hey, one school's joining the SEC, North Carolina, 100%. Yeah. And I was surprised at how many people are still hung up on the Clemson, Florida State thing. He answered that.
He did. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day to kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? You can crush your wellness goals with this dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. You can treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose one from 6 different menu preferences to help manage calories, maximize protein, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/MPW50. Use code MPW50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code MPW50 at factormeals.com/MPW50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while subscription is active.
Are you retiring soon? How long should you wait to take Social Security? What accounts should you pull from first? Are you already retired? Should you consider Roth conversions? These are just some of the questions that can only be answered with a personalized retirement income plan. Andrew Sego Wealth Management specializes in helping folks just like you come up with their retirement game plan, whether you meet at his office in Collierville or you prefer Zoom from anywhere. Schedule a free discovery meeting. See what they can do for you. It's rebelsretire.com. We're brought to you by Grenada Home Center. They've got paint by Benjamin Moore, Pittsburgh Paints, Farrell Calhoun, flooring of any and all types, stone countertops, whether you're looking for granite, quartz, or anything else. And they've got window treatments from plantation shutters to whatever else suits your fancy. It's Grenada Home Center, 1301 Sunset Drive, Suite H in Grenada. Call them at 662-226-3127. We're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating, different names. Same great products and services. If you live in Oxford, Tupelo, Batesville, or the surrounding area, call Comer, 662-801-1777. If you live in Hernando, Memphis, South Haven, that area, call Southern, 662-429-4429. The football season is getting close. If you're getting ready to get all your gear in order, suggest the College Corner. It's in Oxford now. One location just off Sisk Avenue at the Oxford Commons. 2 locations in the Jackson area. They'll have your staff. Their staff will have you in and out, ready for the Grove and Vaught Hemingway in no time. So check out their website, collegecornerstore.com. We're also brought to you by Argent Wealth, formerly Pinnacle Wealth. Argent is based in Ridgeland, Mississippi. They've got clients in more than 20 states. Argent provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much, much more. At Argent, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Argent will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, put forth a comprehensive, detailed, and financial and retirement plan built just for you. It's myargentwealth.com to learn more.
Podcast is brought to you by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They deliver locally in the Oxford area and offer MedSync. 3 prescriptions the same time each month and take care of you. 1 trip to the pharmacy, 1 delivery. Everything you need when you need it with G&M. Also, you can transfer your medications. You make 1 phone call. They take care of the rest. That's in Holly Springs with Tyson Drugs on the square, or G&M in Oxford. That's on South Lamar with 662-236-2222. Just one quick baseball update here. It looks like everybody has made a decision outside of, or a public decision outside of Hunter Elliott as far as coming back, signing, that kind of thing. From a draft standpoint, Ole Miss has gotten off pretty well. They obviously lost Slade Caldwell, who's a top 30 pick by the Diamondbacks. But outside of that, their entire high school roster is going to show up for this season. That's a key, because I think it's a really good class that can potentially spearhead some sort of turnaround over time there with the Rebels. And then no portal person was taken. Their entire portal class should be there as expected. And then with the returning players, Xavier Rivas, the only one who has signed at this point. He is a 16th round pick by the New York Yankees. He was expected to sign. That was completely not a shock in any part whatsoever. And outside of that, everybody's announced they're coming back. Maddox, Nichols, prior to being drafted or prior to the draft ending, and then Connor Spencer had already announced he was coming back as well, so he'll probably be Ole Miss's closer next year, leaving Hunter Elliott. I honestly, barring something really, really, really strange, I don't know if there isn't really an announcement, because I don't think he's going to take the $150,000 or whatever it is from the Dodgers, so the clock is just going to kind of run out at that point. I mean, it's not really about making a decision or anything at that standpoint. So I don't know. I don't know that you're going to get this huge Instagram, hey, this is the moment. I think it's possible that this just, maybe in 10 minutes. But the way the logistics of the draft works, the clock just simply sorts to run out, and they know they're not getting a deal. Look, the Dodgers do not anticipate signing Hunter Elliott. They took that from the beginning as, hey, in case, sure. Or if we have a bunch of money left over. But they're of their top 10 picks, the only one they even thought they might not sign was a high school kid in the 8th round. He was the one to watch. I think they're in good shape there. So, again, it was a complete flyer. The Dodgers are not concerned about their 20th round pick. So that's where this is sitting. If Hunter would like to take $150,000 to sign with the Dodgers, he can do that up until the very last second prior to the deadline. But no one is anticipating that happening, and that he will be back at Ole Miss. The question is, what's he going to look like as a pitcher when he's back? Because he hasn't thrown a competitive pitch in a long time. So
laughing at the stream, not laughing at you.
No, you're.
I don't know why people do it.
Yeah,
it's one of the most basic things. It's literally the one thing that they sort of beg us not to do. We cover a staff that literally doesn't care if you criticize. They don't get defensive. They don't get upset. The one thing they sort of beg us not to do
is depth chart.
Depth chart.
But
I'm not trying to be critical. It's just,
he caused a pretty good kerfuffle back in the.
But
was that the spring?
Yeah, and look, and I'm not.
Was that the spring?
Yeah, it was the spring. I'm not one that is sitting down with the coaching staff ever in any sport going, hey, what can I do to help you? Hey, let's work together. No, I mean, we're not working together.
That's just on your Monday call, not in person?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, in all seriousness for a minute. I mean, this isn't even like that wild of a philosophy here. I don't call the plays. If Ole Miss wins the national championship, I'll play no role in it. If Ole Miss is the most disappointing team in the country, I'll play no role in it. I'm not a corporate partner in any way. But when they say, hey, look, when you guys put out these depth charts, what you do to us is it creates a world of issues. Oh, and by the way, you're wrong. Okay. That's not complicated to me. That's more than fair to me. And so when they go, I know we do a lot of depth chart jokes here, but like, if I go out to practice next Thursday, let's call it, say they open up practice, and they're out there in shells, and they've got different people doing different things, and I'm like, okay, this guy's running second team. Yeah, in that one drill, he was running with the, quote, second unit. Maybe I missed the part of practice where he got some first team reps or some third team reps. Or maybe this was a day where one guy didn't get work that day because he was nursing a little bit of a hamstring thing. Or maybe that guy had some heat-related issues, and they're giving him kind of a day to make sure that he's back. Because the goal, and Kiffin's very clear about this.
September, not.
We don't play games in August until the 31st. You play one on the 31st. But we're not going to go kill each other August the 7th and pay for it all through October. So if Trey Harris, for example, has a day where maybe he ate something that disagreed with him a little bit, got a little dehydrated, the heat got to him, and they're like, hey, we know what he can do.
Go home or go get on the bike. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to do much Wednesday or Friday or whatever the case may be, right? And so somebody else moves in. It doesn't mean, oh, so-and-so suddenly a start. No, but look, they want to play multiple people at different positions. That's part of the whole depth thing. If without the depth, you don't have much of a chance of getting where you are hoping to go.
It's one of the big changes just for probably the last 10 years of college football in general. And I mean, Siski could speak to this more than either one of us, but depth charts in their existence are completely obsolete because even it's rotations, not strings anymore. You know what I mean? Like 15 years ago, it was, hey, here's the first string and the second string, and you do this. No, everything's rotational now in these different areas because, what we used to do back in the day was, and maybe Matt did this, but I don't remember his years as much from this standpoint. I know Nutt and Freeze both sort of line their starters up on the front line of stretches. And we'd get stretch access, and you'd see, okay, here's here, and you kind of go, sort of. That's probably a general hierarchy, if you will, of what's going on. But yeah, it doesn't exist anymore because the good example of that was back in the spring. There was that one day y'all got like 15 minutes, and Sundering Perkins was playing defensive end that day.
Yeah.
And now he's a defensive end. It's like, well, no, he was a defensive end in a drill doing this.
Yeah.
So then if you want to have content and go, hey, here are possible reasons for that. Okay, fine. I mean, whatever. But going, hey, he has moved here because this, I don't know. Was he, were they testing a package? Were they trying to get somebody else on the field? I think TJ Dudley's really coming on. So is it trying to find a way to get him acclimated and used in a way that doesn't mean he has to split time with TJ now? Daughtery. Sorry, he's changed his name now. So there's a bunch of things that go on with that. They told us last week, I mentioned on the board, TJ Dudley is now TJ Daughtery. He has switched his last name to the same last name as his Guardians. So simply on the roster, that has been updated as so. When I will try to say that every time instead of Dudley, but just be aware that's who I'm speaking of when I do that.
I fully anticipate messing that up. But
yeah. I keep wanting to say Dockery already. I've got to go Daughtery. So
it's the funny juxtaposition with for me though is that like I know I'm generally viewed as the negative, anti, and I'm maybe the one person on the beat who I get it. I completely understand that request. I don't think it's absurd. And you know me, and there have been times when requests have been absurd, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Hey, can you not report this until? No, I can't. I know it. I saw it. I'm reporting it. we would really prefer that you not report it. Well, I would really prefer that I grow a full head of hair. But what does that have to do with it? In this case, I'm like, yeah, I get it completely.
Mm-hmm.
I understand this. In the spring, it was like, this is just causing headaches. It's why it's not that we don't want you out there. It's that you're writing stuff that is creating more work for us.
We're dealing with parents now going, hey, why is my kid second string in the NIL era?
Yeah.
Well, Lane said that to the reporter that day.
And so, yeah. That's what he said.
He goes, hey,
I told you why. And then they turned around and did it immediately. And it's I get it. This is the play in your playbook, and you're going to, by God, run it. But
man,
I don't think this is an absurd request. And so, on the Monday of the Furman week, they'll put out a depth chart.
They will.
And it will have so many ors in it, which is their way of saying we hate these things. And so I'm like, okay.
It's also trying to list as many players as possible.
Sure.
Because you
trying to minimize the frustration and the issues. And look, you don't want guys to kind of quit on you 3 weeks into the season mentally. And they go, okay, well, I'm going to get in the portal in December, January, whatever it is. And so I'm kind of out because it's a long season and somebody's opportunity might come over the course of time. As what happened to Trey Amos last year at Alabama, where at the beginning of the season, he didn't have much of a role. By the end of the season, he was guarding Brock Bowers in the SEC championship game. Things do change.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're third team on August the 17th doesn't mean you'll be third team on November the 17th. There will be injuries. There will be developments. Things will happen. Things will change. Guys who don't have a big role in August. There will be someone, whether it's on the Ole Miss team or the Mississippi State team or the Clemson team or name a team, there will be someone who midway through preseason camp is buried on a, quote, depth chart who will end up playing a monumental role for that team later in the season. That will happen.
Throw something off the wall at you for real quick that we had not talked about prior to this point of the podcast. I was talking to a neighbor yesterday and having just kind of an NFL conversation for a second and just sort of talking or whatever. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, hey, you do this for a living. What are you thinking? Who do you sort of like, who are you looking forward to this NFL season? And I had a blank to a point that I was almost embarrassed by because I haven't transitioned my mind there yet. I know you've been doing some 10 thought stuff with different divisions and whatnot, but just off the top of your head, like, what are your 2 or 3 NFL even storylines for the fall? Because I sat there and I went, well, okay. And I kind of thought about it and I went, I'm really interested in the Lions next year because I kind of like the Lions anyway. So I'm sort of pumped up for the Lions. And I went, the Packers are going to be better. I found myself kind of naming some NFC North teams for a second. And I went, I could see some regression from the Chiefs. And I kind of did that in my head. And I kind of went, Buffalo's a little weird. And sort of kind of played it out as I was going. But then I went, I don't know what those 2 or 3 things are that I'm just going, hey, that's really interesting. Is going to kind of take me through an NFL preseason.
I'm interested to see the Chargers with Harbaugh. How he protects Justin Herbert differently. Sure. I think the Bears are obviously becoming a fascinating team because of Caleb Williams and the fact that there's a feeling around the Bears media, particularly, that the Justin Fields experiment wasn't completely Justin Fields' fault, that Matt Eberflus played a role in that, and that he can't screw up anything with Caleb Williams. It's got to go sort of seamless or he's going to pay for it. Whether that's fair or not is up to someone else.
The Jets, as BWL says.
Yeah, the Jets with
They're
Rodgers.
Very interesting.
Fascinating story. I think the Bengals are an interesting story with Burrow back after basically missing a season, a lost season for them, where they still almost made the playoffs. Frankly, the whole AFC North is really interesting. Deshaun Watson should really has no excuses anymore. The Browns have no excuses. It's sort of time for them. Is this the first time in Tomlin's tenure that the Steelers go under 500? Yeah. I mean, the guy's been there like 17 years or something like that. They've been 500 or better every single year, and yet their division is stacked.
I'm with Grind. I love the Texans and the Jaguars just from watching teams on Sundays. Both those really are interesting to me.
The Texans have a much more difficult schedule.
Yeah.
Jacksonville was bad at the end of last season. I wrote this in 10 thoughts. I thought that the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, I thought Lawrence took a step back last season, which was interesting because he came into the season with a lot of hype. I am interested in whether the Colts can find a way to harness and protect Anthony Richardson. I thought their play calling with Richardson last year was criminal, and it got him hurt. And some of that may have been Richardson being stubborn and needing to learn how to operate. But Colts are interesting because if they get good quarterback play, they kind of have everything else. I mean, the NFL's unlike the college game. With the college game, you're like, okay, there's these 8 teams have a shot. In the NFL, I mean, half the damn league has a real shot to make the playoffs. More than half the league has a chance to make the playoffs.
Well, and mention the stream here, the Eagles, they have a ton of pressure on them, even though they're probably one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. Ton of pressure.
Yeah.
They've got to be championship caliber. Or Sirianni's in a little bit of trouble. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of teams have a lot of interest. I just kind of wanted to spend a minute on it because I went, wow, let me think about it for a minute. My head completely had not transitioned to NFL or whatever that's going to look like as we move forward. Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins don't do anything for me, but their deal with Tua is now or never in a lot of ways, what that looks like. Dak is not signed to pass this year with the Cowboys. It's a strange year for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They're still pretty good, but they lose Dan Quinn. A lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
You're selling.
I was selling on them last year.
49ers are good again.
It's hard for me to just completely disregard the Cowboys' repeated playoff struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, they're real.
Well, at some point.
But no, there's a lot of NFL stuff that is interesting. I mean, even the first game, Ravens and Chiefs in Kansas City is interesting.
I mean, Dak's in that area where my quarterback's at, where my biggest rival's quarterback's at. Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr is. They're going to convince you they're good enough, and they're not. And you're just stuck in purgatory.
It's more than fair. Yeah, look, the AFC still belongs to the Chiefs until it doesn't.
Of course.
And the NFC is pretty wide open. I mean, I saw where Ayuk wants out of San Francisco. Did see that.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of deal they'll get there.
Where's it going to go?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I have no clue as to anything.
And you've given up on Major League Baseball, so you're just.
I can't recall the last time I watched a pitch. Other than games in person, I can't.
Cardinals been beating the hell out of the Braves all weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I mean, I've never been so checked out on a sport that I used to be totally checked into.
Yeah.
Completely checked out. No, I don't know if it's just because the Cubs suck.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's deeper than that. But maybe it's simply that simple. I don't know.
It's bandwidth. It's probably deeper than even bandwidth, but it's bandwidth.
You only have so many hours in your
bandwidth.
day, and there are other things that occupy my time that are interesting. I've been busy with a couple of things that you know about that I'm not talking about publicly. You just run out of time.
Yeah. You do. You only have so much time. Period.
So, like I've told you, it's not a criticism, but like the people who are just encyclopedias of what's going on in every sport right now. I'm like, man, where do you, I mean, you must sit in front of a bank of television.
And in July,
all day.
you haven't been able to. Typically, we try to really calm down in July. You took a week, but for the most part, has not been the thing. It's like, I think I had my last day on Saturday was I barely moved Saturday. Like, I don't even know what I did. I sat there. I haven't watched a full, prior to like the last 2 weeks, I haven't watched a full movie in months. It's not where my mind is. I watched like 4 movies on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
I just didn't move. And I just started watching stuff. It was like stuff I'd seen 1,000 times, and then watched a new movie on Saturday night. It was like, I'm just kind of hanging out. Like, I don't know. And then I woke up Sunday and was like, okay, it's time to do stuff now. Let's move.
Yeah.
It sort of, I don't know, it flushed me a little bit. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've got a pretty busy week, and it was like, all right, let's get going. So
yeah.
Anyway. All right. We'll move on in a second. Before we do that, tell you about Prime Shrimp, primeshrimp.com. They have a lot of different flavors for you. Their most recent offering is their soy ginger. Look, it's great with the hibachi stuff, though, with the vegetables, other proteins, rice. Do that up. Maybe you got a Blackstone, throw it all on there and make it awesome. You don't have to cook the shrimp on the Blackstone, though, because what they do is they deliver directly to your door. It is frozen when you get it, and then fewer than 10 minutes, freezer to plate with Prime Shrimp for a restaurant quality shrimp from the New Orleans-based company. We're going to give you a little discount here. Buy 5 pouches or more. When you do that, you get 25% off with code RG. So it's great for dinners, lunches, quick protein snacks, and much more. The signature and the New Orleans style barbecue are my favorites. So pick it up today. Again, that's code RG with primeshrimp.com.
Brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. John's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values, unique benefits, simply not available to other travelers. All you got to do is get in touch with John if you're thinking about a trip, especially one that's going to require some planning, one that you want to be a special one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. Get in touch with him. Give him some parameters. Give him a budget. That's really important. I'm working with John on something right now, and giving him a budget was a big part of it because it's allowed him to help plan what we are trying to do. So it's 901-494-3387 or send him an email, j.edwards@regencytravel.net. Oxford's newest Greek restaurant on the square, Opa, is the perfect place to plan your Christmas party, your company dinner, your festive party event. They have fabulous food. They have great craft libations as well. They can accommodate up to 200 guests. For catering or booking information, contact Jeannie, 601-421-7147. We're also brought to you by Service Specialist Staffing and Recruiting Agency. They've been connecting great job opportunities to candidates since 1967. If you're on the job hunt, whether you're seeking an entry-level position or you're a seasoned professional, they have opportunities across the board. IT, engineering, dentistry, accounting, law, manufacturing, human resources, and more. They've got it at Service Specialist. Their goal is to get to know you, find you in your strengths, see what you're looking for in your next career move, help you find the right fit. You've got nothing to lose if you're a candidate, so give Will, Sydney, or Kelsey a call at 601-573-9242 or check out their new and improved website, servicespecialistltd.com. Get the beautiful, healthy smile you deserve at Corinth Dental. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures that will result in a beautiful, long-lasting smile. From routine checkups to advanced treatment, including implants and Invisalign, Corinth Dental is here to help you achieve your smile goals. Schedule your appointment today. Take the first step toward a better version of yourself. It's corinthdental.com.
Podcast is brought to you by the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. They thank you for an incredible 2023-24 athletic season, because that is possible without you, the fans. Fall sports are right around the corner, so can't wait to see you back on campus soon. 2024 men's and women's basketball season tickets and donation rule deadline is August 31st. If you want to get your priority points up before seat or parking selections, call the foundation, 662-915-7159, or for further information, visit give2athletics.com. They thank you for supporting Ole Miss student athletes. Did you see where if you want to listen to Tom Brennaman, he's back on the airwaves?
I did.
This fall.
And I'm glad.
Yeah, he's doing college football for the CW, I believe.
I mean, he made a mistake. He's paid enough of a price.
Yeah, 4 years.
I mean, it's enough.
much?
It's enough. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous. He made one off-color comment. He paid for it. Enough.
In a lot of ways, I mean, not a lot. It's similar to like the Freeze thing. Like or not like him, he suffered a lot. It wasn't it was not like he came off without punishment here.
100%.
Whatsoever.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
A lot of money, time away, embarrassment, the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean,
people should get chances to move on.
It took a toll on his life.
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that. I made a point not to even read the reactions to it, because I'm sure there's
because it was just good. And
he should be canceled forever.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Just quick here, 30 seconds. I'm moving on. I did not watch it, but really good concept from the WNBA with the All-Star Game thing. The Team USA versus WNBA. They've done it twice now, and you can only do it in an Olympic year because otherwise it makes no sense. But Team WNBA has won both times they have done this. A lot of reasons for that. I mean, I'm not even looking a ton into it from a roster standpoint, but
Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark were able to play the whole game without fighting with one another.
They played on the same team to the point that at one point Angel Reese was even frustrated with Caitlin Clark for not shooting a three. She had an open look and dished, and it's like, come on, I mean, you're on my team for once. Throw it up. Like, let's do whatever. As I said, I'm not buying the package. I'm not necessarily doing anything like that. I've started to find myself intrigued by some of the storylines with it. It's entertaining to me in a time of year when nothing else is going on. I have found it entertaining.
Yeah.
The soap opera of it more than even the games, but sure. And look, their collective bargaining agreement's coming at the perfect time. It does look like there's, considering relative to what it was, pretty substantial increases and changes coming with that.
Yeah, I think some people will finally see the bottom line. It'll feel it and go, hey, thanks, Caitlin.
And a lot of the reasons, a lot of the things, if they could get there, and I'm not sure they can in the CBA, but I'm not versed enough to throw out. I'm telling you, I'm an idiot when it comes to this. Can you get your players enough money where they don't have to go overseas in the offseason? That is the thing you really need to get to be a viable next step for your league.
Right.
And I think Sabrina Ionescu and a couple people said that they had made over $1 million in Russia in past seasons. That's going to be a tough figure to hit in this, but I'm curious to see where that number is. Because I think right now the highest salary in the WNBA is $255,000. I think that's right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw that somewhere this morning.
I'm not versed.
You'll take my word for it.
I would take anyone's word for it. I'm
Okay.
not versed whatsoever in WNBA.
All right.
Other than for the first time I think for the first time since they started the league, they have some mainstream relevance.
Yeah, there's juice here. There's no doubt. There's
They've
definitely
never had it
juice
before.
here.
They've never had it before.
No.
It's never been relevant before.
No.
And some people push back on that, but it's just the truth.
So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, all right. There's pretty big news in the world yesterday. We're going to talk about that now. We're going to talk about that the rest of the show. So if you want just the sports takes, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll talk sports tomorrow and whatever comes out for the first part of the show. But just giving you that heads up here. Obviously with substantial news stuff that, history book wise, we're going to move in that direction now. So again, if you are leaving us, appreciate it. Talk to you tomorrow. Otherwise, going to talk a little politics here to close out the program. Still good with time left.
And less like politics and more just like the significance of this moment. Like, that's to me, that's what's interesting is I said this to Carson yesterday, he's 17 years old. I said, when you're my age, people will be asking you about these last few weeks.
Well,
you're living in history right now.
I think that's the thing is, my clock is messed up a little bit because I went back and redid that intro and my timing on our segments is off. So I'm a little bit like, I'm off on how far we are into stuff right now. Yeah, my clock is messed up. That's what I was thinking about was how many things I was thinking about my life, but my life as an adult. So the last 20, whatever years you want to call it an adult. Things that are in history books, things that theoretically should be in history books, things that are substantial to the change of the world. And obviously there was some stuff in the 90s, but if you said, hey, one thing from the 90s is going to stick out, it might be the OJ trial, for God's sake, as much as anything else. You know what I mean? Like, You've got some of that kind of stuff. I get the Iraq War and whatnot, but I think it might be something along those lines. You might go, hey, politically or just societally, it's OJ and maybe Clinton Lewinsky.
And then 9/11.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and then 9/11. And then since then, you had killing of bin Laden, obviously. You've got some things along those lines. And then you get into this last 4 or 5 years where you got COVID, which was, let's say the end of it-ish, in quotes, was 3 years ago or whatever you want to call it. And then this political cycle. And maybe it's multiple cycles. Maybe it's a lot of things along those lines. But Joe Biden announcing in an odd way yesterday that he is not seeking re-election, the first sitting president with a term available to do that since 1968 with LBJ. LBJ did it.
This whole thing started with a debate that was fascinating. Not because of the debate itself, but because we had a presidential debate before either convention and way early. before Trump had named a running mate. Trump was still the presumptive Republican nominee, not the actual Republican nominee.
Sure.
And Biden was a sitting president, but it was before the Democratic convention, though the Democrats had basically done what most incumbent presidents do when they're running for re-election, which was they essentially had usurped the entire ballot. No, not ballot. The whole primary process.
Yeah.
They just didn't have them. They did have them, but nobody was on the ballot other than like Williamson and somebody
else. It's a formality to get your delegates.
Yeah,
of course.
So, by the time they did that debate, I think it was June the 27th in Atlanta. By the time they did that debate, Biden wasn't the nominee, and obviously is not going to be the nominee, but he did have all the damn delegates.
He has 3,800 delegates. Yes. And I'm not getting in. Today's conversation is not about the delegates and the super delegates and all that crap. But anyway, he has 3,800 delegates.
So he was in control of the nomination.
Yes, of course. Would have been the nominee. I mean, all those kind of things.
Yes.
So, okay. Then we get yesterday, as I was saying, first time since LBJ. And when LBJ did it, he did like an hour-long TV interview where he basically just talked to the nation and at the very end goes, hey, by the way, I'm not seeking re-election. Really odd. I went back and found it yesterday. Really odd thing.
And it was one of the last times that a sitting incumbent president was involved in the primary process. And it was becoming obvious that not only was he not going to win the White House again, he probably wasn't going to win the nomination again. And it was becoming quite a distraction for the Democratic Party in a year, much like the year that we're kind of in now, was full of social unrest.
100%. And so you get Biden yesterday announcing this, I don't know, sometime between 1 and 2 o'clock Central Time. I forget exactly. Somewhere in there. Maybe right before that. Maybe it's just before, between 12 and 1. But either way, is he announces this on social media, on Twitter or X, on a non-president letter-headed copy of a letter, if you will, on a white piece of paper. Simply talks about his decision not to seek re-election, doesn't endorse Kamala in that letter, and it goes out on X. Like, of all places, it gets picked up by the news stations immediately, obviously. And I had a news station on just from watching something earlier in the day, so they're talking about it immediately, but it gets put out in this strange way, and I've listened to a bunch of stuff last night and this morning. Essentially, they told no one, and part of the reason for that was to use anything else would have required telling extra people, and they did not want that leaked or put out ahead of time.
Because it would have leaked.
And it speaks to just how insular the president had gotten at this point, that he told staff members even, they said literally 1 minute prior to it being released on X from his Twitter account at that point. So a lot of the reasons why you're seeing how it came out was the small circle that was aware, that was probably fewer than 5 people that knew what was going on at that juncture. And this is because we're going to talk about this a lot over the next few months, obviously leading into this election in November. It's an interesting spot for me personally, and then Neal kind of talk about it, because, and anybody that's been with the podcast for a long time, I love campaigns. I love campaign strategy, election season in general, of not necessarily who the nominees are as far as how they're going to govern, but how they put a map together, how they get votes, how they're persuasive. That's the things that are really interesting to me. And this is new territory for the modern era in ways that is pretty incredible. And I'm fascinated to see what they do strategically with Kamala, the support she has, where this thing moves, and what's next. And then I think that because of everything being so internet-based and it being so hard to sort of find reasonable discussion in a lot of ways, I feel very lost as a fairly moderate politician. Political person.
Oh, well, see, I have found a lot of what I believe to be pretty objective commentary on this over the last.
I just mean politics in general more than this conversation over the last 24 hours. I feel like
this is where I'm a big Breaking Points fan. I think they do a terrific job.
I feel like when I am just searching the internet or just in my face with what I do every day, I'm inundated with such extreme opinions everywhere to where I go, oh my God, I have grown to hate the two-party system. I have grown to.
I think our country's outgrown it.
I've grown to be frustrated and just sort of annoyed by the rhetoric everywhere of team politics. I despise it. I mean, it's part of the reasons
Well, you
why.
know whose fault that is.
Do what?
You know whose fault that is. It's the media's fault.
Yeah, of course. It's the media's fault. It is,
almost,
and now, look,
almost
it
exclusively.
is both sides, mainstream media, mostly about cable news. Because I will say this, and this is just something that I feel going into election season. I don't like the term the media because it's too broad. But I know what you mean. Like I specifically more what you mean.
Legacy media.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And that frankly started. I mean, if you want to track back in at least my opinion,
sure,
it's where a lot of people are like, man, you're fired up about this. I'm mostly angry at media. However you want to define media, and I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Dating all the way back to at a minimum, COVID.
No, it's farther than that. It's 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
It's when Trump first began a true sense of the White House.
True.
And maybe even back into the Obama administration to some extent.
But I think, yeah. I think
2016 was certainly team politics too, because you had such divisive people with Trump and Hillary.
Yeah, so you had you had a lot of completely faulty reporting where media just was so dug in on their sides that there was never a correction. And I don't mean like printing a correction. I mean just like kind of inside those establishments, people like, we always talk about hand raised guys, where hand raised guy goes, hey, we got that really wrong. Like, we can't keep getting things this wrong. It's going to lead to mistrust. This isn't as simple as being like, hey, I think Ole Miss is going to go win the national championship, and then they go 8-4, and people go, God, you really missed that one. Okay, yeah, but it's not really all that consequential. There was some consequential failures in reporting that here we are today on a day where two big stories are unfolding right in front of us, which is the Democrats, frankly, have waited too long. I was listening to a podcast this morning that was two Democrats talking about it. And they were like, in an ideal world, there would have been an acknowledgement months ago that, hey, not only is Biden 82, but Biden's an old 82. My parents are 82. Mm-hmm. I'm around 82-year-old people. That is a difficult age to be running a country. And there was obvious, like, people, it's one of the things, not to push back on any of it, but like, there's this narrative that, boy, that debate really exposed Biden. I'm like, no, it didn't. We could see this for years. You could see this. And so we have these two stories unfolding. One, the Democrats they have 4 weeks from today until the first ballot at their convention in Chicago.
Yep.
4 weeks. You really don't have time for primaries. That's not a realistic thing at this point. And then on the other hand, you've got the Secret Service, I think within the hour.
9 a.m. right now, actually.
Is scheduled to be in a congressional hearing.
Yeah. Interviewed by the House Oversight Committee.
Answering questions about how did that happen?
Yeah.
Because whether you are Republican or Democrat or independent or anything else, you simply cannot want a major political candidate in your country to get killed. The reason is,
at best case, that level of incompetence.
Because the reason is we have real enemies in the world.
Yes.
And when they see that, you can't help but think, hey, like if you're Iran, who hates us and would love to create discord in our country, they look at that and go, okay, in a world where that kid was able to hide a gun, climb to the top of that building, and take a free shot at the former president and possibly future president of the United States, if he can create that much, imagine what we could do.
And that's my point. As I close this part of it, my point of this is that we're so, whenever it wanted to start or where we've gotten, we're in such this team politics and so point of view that it's simply beat the other guy. Don't talk about anything that's actually going on. And look, the media causes this. The media caused this. Again, I'm doing it now. The media caused this with lying or covering up Biden's issues because they just wanted the Democrat to win.
Yeah.
The Republicans, it's this point where you can't even say anything was okay with the Democrats whatsoever because we give 1%. Right. Like, it's that. It's that nothing is 100 and 0 ever.
Sure.
And we're in a society, in a news culture where everything has to be 100 or 0, and I have to hate that guy, and I've got to hate this person, and I've got to be so against everybody and so for my person that it's a lack of substance for me that I get very uncomfortable with. I don't like it because I don't fit in either one of them all the way.
Sure.
If you put me on a 0 to 10, I'm a Republican, but I'm like a 6.5. I'm a 7. Like, I'm not a 10. So I'm automatically going to have things that I go, I don't know. I don't really buy that.
Yeah, and
nobody says that out loud that matters in a political sphere.
Like, people push me like Trump. I'm not a Trump guy. I'll say that out loud. I was for DeSantis. I wanted someone who'd run a state. I wanted someone who wanted growth, corporate growth, financial growth. I'm for lower taxes. I really don't care about a lot of the social things.
Yeah, I'm pretty live and let live. I don't care.
Honestly, don't really care.
No.
I mean, so when people get into a lot of those things, but here we are, it's really interesting, right? The Democrats, the Republicans really have done this too, because Trump sucked so much oxygen out of the room over the last several years that they really couldn't have a primary, even though they had some decent candidates. I mean, DeSantis in a different era would have, because look, whatever you think of COVID, look at Florida through COVID. He did really well. The state thrived. Not all states thrived. He did. Yet he could get absolutely no traction whatsoever in this process. And now the Democrats have put themselves in this really fascinating spot, which is, how do you justify not? I mean, it's going to be Harris. It almost has to be Harris.
It's going to be Harris.
But if you didn't want, and Harris historically has been a bad candidate. She's never gotten any traction in any election that she ran for, and now she's got to run against a Donald Trump who is not far removed from this iconic moment. And so it's going to be very so if you're one of the people on the Democratic bench today, you have to ask yourself a question. Yeah, you're going to publicly support her and all that, but are you going to be a running mate? Are you going to how far are you willing to go with her? And when there might be people, and I know that there are, because I have some political friends who have said, hey, some of these people in the Democratic Party who are considered to have real futures are being advised to, hey, keep your powder dry. Because in 4 years, you're not going to run against Trump.
And it's that juxtaposition that I find so fascinating for the parts of this that I like, is that for the longest time, the Republican side was sort of, hey, can we get Trump out of here? Can we shut him up?
Sure.
Can we remove on?
Sure.
He's taking all the oxygen. It's not what we want to do. And yet, sort of slowly and leading into the convention, they look really unified behind him from a party. And I get that all conventions are supposed to be like that, but for the most part, relative to where it was, it felt like a pretty good lockstep from that side.
I mean, he brought Haley there. He brought DeSantis
it was
there.
Okay.
They did some of that stuff. I'm not, unlike you, like you and I talked about this, I'm not really a convention person.
Yeah, and I like them. They crack me up.
I don't pay a lot of attention to them.
But for the average person, they didn't see unrest versus what this now is, which is this problem of, okay, no, it has to be Harris for lots of reasons. Number one, she's the only one that can take the campaign finance money because it stays inside the party, inside the ticket, if you will. So financially, it makes sense. She's an African-American woman. It's two demographics the Democrats need from a counting vote standpoint, from an election standpoint. You run the risk of alienation in a lot of ways and all these different things at that point if it's not her.
Yeah, I think it would be.
And then two, it is the vice president. She has the benefit. Well, again, this is about political, not about governing. Everybody calm down. She, in theory, can claim all the successes while putting all the failures on Biden. That would be your strategy. Is it going to work? I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying you at least have that theory going into how do you campaign.
If I were the Democrats,
yes.
It's interesting that yesterday it was the Republicans that were pressuring this, and I was like, you guys strategically are not thinking about this. If I were the Democrats, I would want Biden to resign. I would want her to become the president.
And then do something presidential.
And then hope that there was an opportunity for her to do something presidential or to at least appear
and you're just
presidential.
simply the incumbent, which helps.
Yes, that helps.
And you're not the incumbent. So the point being, you've got all these different reasons why it has to be Harris, and yet you've got this thing where you either have you have two bad options because you're going to get to the convention. and you're going to name her or whatever you're doing, however this works. Again, I'm a little hazy on exactly how the process works, but either way.
Well, if everyone's right, on that Monday, she'll get the majority of the
Sure.
votes, and she'll be the nominee.
And you avoid the second vote. But anyway.
Sure. That's where it gets
funny.
It gets wild.
So, but here are your two options. Your options are make it look like you have zero unity inside your party, where you have and people are trying to run against her and backroom deals, and this thing is chaotic.
Well, there's some of that because Obama didn't endorse her yesterday.
Exactly. But on the other hand, when you just rubber stamp her, you put her in as the nominee when she's never won a national election prior to this, and you didn't let the people vote on it. So you literally had zero votes from the people and your constituents on one side, or you look chaotic and not unified. And it's just, and now look, are there really hardly anybody in the damn middle who doesn't know who they're voting for? I don't know. So maybe this is all irrelevant. But from a straight political strategy optic standpoint, it's two really weird, bad things you've got to choose the best version of.
I don't think it will end up hurting her or hurting them. If they lose, I don't think it will be because of this. But where they have, you're exactly right, where they have a really weird messaging conundrum right now is that they have spent the past, 2 years, 3 years, however long it's been, dating back to Biden's that speech where they put the red background and all that stuff. Remember that?
I do.
On the stairs. I guess he was in Philadelphia.
I don't remember where it was, but yes.
It doesn't matter. It was, I'm almost positive it was Philadelphia. And he talked about democracy is on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot. That has become their talking point. When you say that and then you subvert the democratic process, it gets a little complicated. I don't think it will get used against them because I don't think the average American pays much attention to that and understands it. But they didn't have. You literally just got through telling the people, because this has been, over the last 3 weeks, this has been an incredibly organized campaign to push him out.
That's what I was about college football earlier. It's looked like when the AD gets the fake approval and then the donors in the back are going, hey, we're going to dig up all this stuff, heads up. That's exactly what just happened.
And when the donors go, I'm not giving to this.
It's exactly what just happened.
The coach is getting fired.
Yes.
And so, there'd been this minimum of 3 week undercurrent of this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. And I think I was talking to someone yesterday who said, every candidate gets a post-convention bump if the convention went well. And like you said, the Republican convention from a Trumpian standpoint went really well. He was on message. He's subsequently gone off message. But regardless, the polling that was done over the weekend, are you voting for Trump? Are you voting for Biden? Et cetera. The numbers were going to come out very favorable for Trump and very disfavorable for Biden. Now, maybe 4 weeks from now, he might have come back and closed that gap or erased that gap or something would have happened. Who knows? But those numbers were going to come out. It was going to be very demoralizing, and a lot of people in the Democratic Party were like, "This just we got to make a move. This doesn't work. Got to audible." But you didn't do the process, and so you almost have to go with her. There's going to be a lot of criticism of, well, why her? And it's going to be juxtaposed against this Secret Service stuff where there's going to be a lot of criticism of how did that happen? What role did there's been a lot of criticism of DEI as it pertains to the Secret Service. It's legitimate, frankly. It's one of those things that I think when you're talking about, hey, let's protect our presidential candidates, it's not, hey, let's make sure that we have a cross-section of Americana. No, let's just protect the guy or the woman, right? We can't have our presidents, former presidents, possibly future presidents getting killed. That makes us a third world country. We just got to protect those people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans or independents. Like the whole not providing Secret Service for Robert Kennedy Jr. was just insane. We don't need another Kennedy getting killed. It's not good for the country. I don't think this is a political comment. We don't need. I asked you. I said, because I asked Josh Hendrickson a week ago when we did the show, what's our country look like today if that bullet is half an inch the other way, half an inch more on target? If Trump doesn't turn his head, if Trump's dead today? What's our country look like? I think it's pretty damn vitriolic. It's what I really believe. I think the number of people who simply refuse, and I don't know what I think, but the people who simply refuse to think that this was just incompetence, who think it was an inside job, who think it was sinister. I think those people would be really fueled. We just have a lot of stuff. But this is interesting. Like I told him, Carson, your kids will ask you about 2024. There's no doubt about that. Assuming we're still teaching history in American classes in 2044, 2048, they'll be asking about what happened in 2024. Because we're watching history unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a way where Harris is going to have to that's why I keep going back to this. If I were the Democrats, I would want Biden to resign. Because the other problem for Harris is that if Biden continues to stumble around, one of the questions, and it's legitimate to her, is you're the vice president. You've been with him more than maybe.
And you said he was great 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, literally after the debate, you said, no, he's great. He's never been better. He's the sharpest person. We can't keep up with him. All of these things. Why did you all say that?
I find this part interesting. If you're Vance and Trump and the Republican Party, do you want a debater? Because here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
But hold on. Of all of her pros, cons, and everything, her best quality is probably as a debater. It's probably where she's the best, is on a stage in that arena.
Yeah.
You also give her a platform to look dominant, presidential,
Sure.
potentially.
Sure.
Whereas if you kind of just avoid her, she has no real leg to stand on.
But if you avoid her,
because Vance is not a dedicated debater, you run into a potential issue there.
Well, he's a pretty good debater.
But my point is, he's
yeah.
never done that in that area.
Well, now it's going to be Trump versus her.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Harris
yeah, good point.
I mean, Vance is going to debate whoever the running mate is.
Yeah, sure.
The fascinating thing is the running mate thing.
And it's going to be it's going to be a swing state governor, and they're going to try to pull that state. That's
or Mark Kelly.
Oh, okay.
The senator from Arizona.
Either way.
Swing state.
Yeah, either way.
Deal.
Yeah, swing state politician.
I would bet on Shapiro.
It's going to be a male from a swing state.
Yeah, I would be shocked. I would be literally shocked if it's not a white male.
Yeah, I would too. I mean
and that's not a race thing. It's just
it's a political strategy.
And I will be stunned if it's not someone from a swing state.
Well, it would be beyond stupid if it wasn't.
But like even if let's say you're Gretchen Whitmer, even if she decided to go with another female, Gretchen Whitmer's the governor of Michigan. If I'm Gretchen Whitmer, who's a likely candidate in 2028, if she wants to be, do I attach myself to this?
No, God, no.
Or do I go, hey, you know what? I'm going to say and do all the right things.
No, God, no.
But I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till
2028. I mean, look, she's got her own problems, but she could beat Newsom in 28.
Sure. Oh,
so no.
Yeah. Listen.
Now look, that's 4 years from now.
Yeah.
Neither one of them might even be in the conversation.
I think when people talk about, like over the last month or so, when people would talk about Newsom running as a Biden replacement, I was like, what? Are you nuts? Like Newsom's got to rehabilitate a lot of his image before. I thought, and this is where I think the Democrats have made a mistake, and they might end up winning. They weren't going to win with Biden. She's going to give them a chance. Biden was not going to win.
No. They have a much better chance because I was listening to Bill Simmons this morning, and he said it. This is like sports in a lot of ways. If you're one side, what do you want the other side to do? The Republicans wanted Biden to stay in the race.
Of course.
Trump let him off the hook multiple times going, hey, I just need him to hang on here. I don't want to throw the kill shot.
Right.
Bad words. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But had the Democrats acknowledged a year ago, this is a problem.
Yes.
And what's interesting is they didn't because she
Harris,
couldn't
have won the primary.
She polled so badly.
Yes, that was the reason why. Was she could? That's what I was talking about a minute ago. She had no ability to actually win the primary. I think she ran 11th in the primary in 20.
She pulled out before Iowa even caucused.
Yeah, I think it was 11th.
She basically didn't register. It was, if you were to put it in football terms, the AP top 25, she didn't even get votes.
And I think we're in a part here where, again, either way, I was asked this in my mailbag a few weeks ago. I don't know. I hope we're in some version of a political reset after this election.
Need to be.
We're at least going to get younger, which will help.
Yes. But what I was going to say, had they acknowledged that, right, and just paid the price a year ago, they could have run someone like Bashir.
Yeah.
The governor of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Who would have given them a real shot. I mean, a real shot.
It pulls moderates in to an extent.
That might have forced the Republicans to go, hey, you know what? We're going to have to get away from some of this bombastic stuff
It's not going to work.
And go with a different person. And we might have gotten the political reset that we've all kind of hoped for. But because they were so determined to go through this, they've now put themselves in a spot where they only have 4 weeks and they really don't have an option.
Well, no, it's done. I mean,
because if you think about it pragmatically, in a world where you don't go with Kamala, I don't know, A, who you go with, and B, how do you answer to the segment of that party, and it's there. There's no point in pretending that it's not. That would say the only reason you didn't stay with her is because of her color.
Yeah.
You abandon her because she's an African-American woman. That's what they would say. Now, would that be fair? The truth is they would be abandoning her because she doesn't poll well. They would be abandoning her because they didn't think she could compete with Trump in a national election.
It would be the same thing if, again, this is not about women. It's just in general. I'm just thinking of bad vice president possibilities. It would be the same thing if Sarah Palin had been on the Republican ticket and you had to put her up for president and you go, God, no.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's...
Right. So it's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, Tim Kaine couldn't have won if Hillary had stepped down and after she won the election in 2016. I mean, come on.
The part that no one is saying, and that I feel this, and I think it's one of the reasons that I have so much angst about it, is I think when you look up right now and look at where we are as a country politically, we look weak. We look weak. We look vulnerable. We look weak. We look rudderless.
We don't look serious.
We don't look serious.
That's the question. That's actually the answer. We don't look serious.
It's part of what's really bothered me about some of the attacks on Trump is that I don't mind people attacking Trump. In fact, I think there's plenty of things to attack. But when you make it so personal in a time where we have other things going on, we're on the precipice of, we're trying to resist World War III here. We have an economy that's in shambles. We got a lot going on, and we're having these debates about Trump and Stormy Daniels, and most people just like, I don't care. And it's pretty obvious in the polling that people don't care.
The most pissed off our two candidates got during a debate was about golf scores.
So in serious times, we're not being serious.
Yes.
That typically hurts you.
Yes, as Logan Roy said, we're not serious people. So, yes, that is...
that's what Josh Hendrickson has said that numerous times on our shows, that we're not a serious country right now at a time when we need to be serious.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll continue this throughout the as needed. I'm sure we'll get something today that will lead into tomorrow. I'm seeing some different snippets from this Secret Service hearing that is going on this morning. So key stuff all the way around. Appreciate everybody for sticking in, hanging out with us after got a little chipmunky there at the top of the show. Glad we could fix that easily. Rebelgrove.com in the meantime. A lot of content up there, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.